Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Business of VOD panel. We're going to be looking today at what business opportunities VOD platforms offer filmmakers, producers, and distributors alike. And we'll be exploring all of these opportunities in what is a very fast-moving environment. And hopefully have some key tips for documentary lovers. In terms of, thus far in the digital world, in terms of rights holders, as a distributor, what we found is that what a lot of filmmakers say to us is that VOD feels a little bit like King's New Clothes. A lot of very attractive platforms, a lot of very innovative ideas, but nonetheless returns are difficult to come by. So we'll look at how these different guys are trying to challenge this problem in the market, and what opportunities there are going forward. Jordan McGarry is here from Vimeo. Would you like to introduce Vimeo?
Yeah, my name is Jordan McGarry. I'm the lead curator at Vimeo, and I work on the core site as well as on the Vimeo on-demand platform. For those, I imagine most of you know what Vimeo is, but for those who don't, we are a video sharing platform that was set up several years ago. And we were built by filmmakers for filmmakers. Pretty much everyone on the team makes films in one way or another, and everybody's been hired from the community, so everybody's very, very passionate about what we do. And from the beginning, Vimeo has always been about providing the very best tools possible for filmmakers. So whether that's, we were first to go with the HD player. We'd like to keep everything very simple and put the video first. We have amazing privacy controls. There's video school, music store to help people find music to use, which is another tricky issue on the internet. So it's always been about helping filmmakers make the best films that they can. And the final point in that loop is to help people get paid for their work. Last year, we rolled out the beginnings of creator services, and that includes a smaller product called Tip Jar, which is something we put on the videos that people post on Vimeo for free, which if somebody enjoys your work, they can tip you anything between $1 and $500. And then this year at South by Southwest, we launched Vimeo On Demand, which is our distribution platform for people who want to sell their work to their audience. Again, it's just designed as an incredibly flexible tool. We've started with quite a simple launch, and there will be further phases as we roll out and figure out what people want and how people are using it. But at the moment, it's very flexible. You can decide to make your film available for DRM-free download, or to stream it for a limited window, and that's up to you. It could be one day, it could be a year, anything in between. You decide how much to charge for the piece, and where it's available, you can exclude certain territories or only sell it in 1 or 2 territories. And then after transaction fees, you get 90% of the revenue. So we're hoping it's something that people are going to really want to use. We think, obviously we have an incredibly strong community. Lots of people have very passionate followings on Vimeo, and it's all about helping them figure out how to sell directly to their audience and monetize their work. Now, we have a tendency to make videos about new products and things that we've done, so this is a film that our production team made just to launch the platform and explain.
So I've been thinking about this a lot, and I want to release my new film online. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I'm a huge fan of this film. It's got everything. Thanks. But I'm new to this online thing. How does distribution work?
Oh, well, I am glad that you asked. I'm going to let my distributor take that one.
This film will be the centerpiece of our digital distribution roster. Now, marketing, let's jam on that, huh?
Okay, my marketing team has lined up a killer slate of exposure avenues. What we should be talking about is a unique online destination. I already built a custom landing page for the film in my sleep. It's got HTML5, 1080p. The works. Okay, let's release a film, people.
Introducing Vimeo On Demand, a new service that empowers you to play all the roles in distributing your work. With Vimeo On Demand, we put the control in your hands to beautifully showcase the work you want, at the price you want, to the audience you want. And with our 90-10 revenue split, we make sure you get the biggest slice of the pie. Vimeo On Demand. Distribute your work your way.
So that's us.
Thanks, Jordan. Mark, do you want to introduce Dailymotion and what you guys are doing?
So hi, I'm Mark Eschen from Dailymotion. I'm Dailymotion head of content. And for those who don't know, Dailymotion is a video sharing website also. But on an ad-funded model, meaning that our job is to create audience and revenue for content owner. The website has been launched 7 years ago, and we are streaming around 2.5 billion video views per month. And and we launched last September our paywall tool. So as you can see here, now every content owner or content producer can decide for each video if he wants to have a revenue sharing deal with us, or if he wants users to pay for this content. And it's really important because the paywall is inside the player, meaning that by just embedding the player, you can create your own VOD platform on your website, or you can benefit from all embed on social pages from Facebook, Twitter, and websites like this. Again, you define the price, the viewing period, the territories, well, almost everything by yourself. And you can also, you can do pay-per-view for each video, or you can create a subscription offer around all your content, which is also really efficient. And subscription revenue represented 10% of the global revenue at the launch in September, and now it's around 30%, so it's something we are working on at the moment.
Great, thanks very much, Mark. Peter, would you like to introduce Distrify?
Sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They say that imitation is the greatest form of flattery, so thank you, both of you. Distrify's been around for 2.5 years. We're the longest running company doing direct-to-fan distribution online. Our approach is very much on where your audience is. You're always trying to find out where people are, who want to see your film, and you want to reach them. But these days it's very difficult because people have a lot of different things that are bombarding them at any given time, whether it's just films, other types of media, any kind of thing that's going on in the world. So how do you break through all that chaos and reach to someone's interests and what they actually want to watch and get them to watch your film? Well, we find that word of mouth and sort of organic marketing is the most effective, especially through the internet, where the concept of discovery really leads that desire to share and purchase. So Distrify pioneered the concept, which Mark was just talking about, of putting your purchase wall into the trailer. So this is an example of a Distrify player. You can either watch the preview, you can click rent, you enter your email address and your credit card details, and you stream the film instantly. But the really nice thing about that is that it can go everywhere, from your film's homepage, such as Terry Gilliam's homepage here, where his film is embedded. Also works the same when it's embedded on his Facebook wall, or when a other website reviews the film and posts it into their page, like on The Guardian. But then on top of that, we provide a very unique offer to the people who are promoting your film, which is a commission. So say someone shares the film onto Facebook or onto Twitter, then it shows up directly in their feed, so that all of, say, my fans or my friends see what I've shared on my wall. If they purchase it, I earn 10% as the person who recommended the film. So it's a great way to encourage legal sharing and encourage your film to go viral within an interest group. Like I said, Distrify is mainly focused on how you actually work with that audience. But on top of that, we also offer a complete e-commerce solution. As you pointed out earlier, the sort of VOD revenue is still not the biggest source of revenue for the film industry. So we want to make sure that you're still able to sell your hard copies, your DVDs, your merchandise, your download to own, any other type of product that you want can be sold within the Distrify player. We can even do automatic fulfillment for DVD purchases. We have the same kind of geo-restriction controls as any of the other platforms, but we take it one step further again because we're concerned about you building your audience. So for example, bananas is geo-restricted for me at the moment. So instead of seeing a rent button, I see a coming soon button, which is where the green button automatically knows where people are. You click coming soon, it asks for your email address, your audience signs up, feeds in their data, and then you've got a growing mailing list of people, and you know where they are in the world who want to watch your film. Again, one of the other unique offers that we have is the ability to really see who is buying your film. You get their details, their email addresses, where they live, and you can communicate with them and see who your affiliates are and everything. So we have complete transparency into your film's audience and your world. Finally, we're building partnerships and platform relationships because Distrify, unlike this sort of standard iTunes model, is not set up to be a destination site where our editors are recommending the films to you. You have a different taste than we do and different taste than other people, so you identify the people who you trust as your recommended sources. So we work with Greg's company. They supply this I Love Docs platform, which is their custom platform, which has a curated selection of Distrify films embedded. Some of them are distributed by Greg, and some of them are done as an affiliate partnership in the same way that The Guardian does. So you go onto I Love Docs if you're a doc fan, and you're going to get a trusted source for those films. We also have a very simple tool set which allows new curators to get set up or distributors to get set up with a custom platform such as this, which is set up in a few clicks from our system, and it allows another way for people to discover the content. Another example is the one with Outlook Films. Our growing partnerships are what really makes the difference. So for example, we have an ongoing relationship with The Guardian, who promotes films through their section of the site called the Guardian Screening Room. They select the films that they're interested in, and they promote them to their film audience, but also to related audiences, such as in the case of Jiro Dreams of Sushi, that was promoted through the food sections of the site, and it was promoted as a day and date release in the UK, and people were able to purchase directly from an article about sushi. We also do similar partnerships with cinemas along the day and date, so that you go to a Filmhouse Cinema's website, you're given the option to either buy a ticket or rent the film immediately from the website, and we give the showtimes or the rental option so that the cinema is able to earn revenue from VOD and participate in the new day and date simultaneous release strategies. So that's a quick overview of what Distrify does. For sake of time, I'll avoid going to the case studies, but if people want to see some numbers, we can talk later.
All right, great. Thanks, Peter. Greg, do you want to introduce Syndicato and I Love
Sure.
Docs?
I'm Greg Rubich. I'm president of Syndicato Inc. And then we were started 5 years ago, focused purely on digital distribution, which is the new forms of getting your film into different devices. And along the way, we wanted a voice to talk to documentaries as a way to market library content, so that's when I started ilovedocs.com. So just quickly, in industry parlance, I always like the term distributor better, but as soon as you say you're in digital, they call you an aggregator. So in industry vernacular, we're a VOD aggregator. But we distribute and market feature-length and broadcast documentaries. We're also taking on narrative films and TV series as well. We work primarily with other distributors and sales agents. We work with journeymen, and we kind of partner as their in-house digital group, but not on the payroll. It's kind of how I envision the model and how we work with other distributors. Couple things for discussion which we can talk about and set expectations. I look at Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Hulu as the new HBO and AMC. They're going to be the broadcasters where HBO was 25 years ago in terms of how they provided content was different. Now they make their own and they're a brand. You're already seen that in less than 5 years with Netflix making House of Cards. I look at iTunes, Microsoft, Amazon, and a number of other outlets as being, other retail outlets, except I think you all know in the UK where HMV went. In the United States, Blockbuster went down. So these are all the new rental stores. And From a marketing perspective, we look to beyond just distribution. We follow the editorial calendars of our partners, so around key events or calendar events, we'll pitch our library to them for there's a hook where they have a promotion. We'll market new releases. We leverage social media. At this point, we're still trying to figure it out, probably like a lot of you. I don't think anyone's cracked the nut on it. We've started other blogs and domains where we look to sell and provide context for content that we're selling around documentaries. And now we're looking at theatrical as really it's the best way to support independent film launching in the US. So we'll look at theatrical releases, a limited release in New York and LA, Toronto, maybe Vancouver, as a way of getting titles reviewed in the press and raising awareness, not unlike a major theatrical release. When you go to iTunes and you go to look at new releases, you've probably seen most of them in print and you know what's out there. So I think really to move the bar up and create a real business of VOD, this is kind of the next evolution. What you're seeing is in theatrical as a support. Quickly, I split this in half. There's some of the partnerships that we work with. The world is really split. I look at it split in between two. There are those that we can, publish our titles to, or our relationship is such that, we pretty much send everything we have there. The other half, and that would be the right-hand side, is really where you have to pitch. So they don't take everything. So Microsoft and Sony, they're hyper-focused on the male demo, 18 to 34, because it's a game platform. So, we'll parse out our library and new releases, what we think will map to that demographic and pitch it. So, same thing, in demand is cable VOD, they're only looking for certain releases. So it's not, going digital is not necessarily a issue thing. We have to go, and again, each outlet has their own curatorial priorities. This is maybe, we can hopefully touch on some of this in discussion. Things to consider. There's more content growing faster than the pool of dollars, and the model's changing rapidly. So we're in a state of flux, probably from 2 years ago and probably for the next 4. There are a few aggregators and outlets. I don't mean necessarily what we do, more like the outlets like iTunes, whereas you have several broadcasters around the world, all with a lot publicly funded budgets or part of cable subscriptions. With pools of dollars, they go to a limited amount of filmmakers, but for those that are in, you earn a living. There's that nice pool of dollars. That's being disrupted. So now, and the aggregators are primarily out of the United States. So there's fewer of them, and the other challenge is that it's transactional versus broadcast fees, where you might have got a fee in the past, which is a license fee. iTunes is like, we're not paying license fees. Well, you can put it on our platform. It's more of a retail outlet. So yes, Netflix is one of the few that do pay network, a license fee, which is why I look at them now like a broadcaster. So the risk is shared, whereas before you made your doc, or maybe it was commissioned, you made your money, then great, you went on, you made your next film. Now there's a lot of uncertainty. So, it's still early days. I look at this as where the internet was, and then maybe there was a panel here, in 1999, 1988. It was like, what were you going to do with the internet and telling stories? But at that time, that was pre-Facebook, pre-Web 2.0, pre-YouTube. So I think there's a long way to go. On the plus side, there are new sources that didn't exist before for your films. And I chatted with a filmmaker last night who has all these things, his library. He's like, I want to see it out there. And for him, it's new audience. Didn't care as much about the money, but there's a new revenue life. And it's increased exposure for him outside of England. So there's some, maybe we'll get in this I just want to relay this while I had the chance. Key digital to-dos. So we'll get a lot of made-for-broadcast docs out of Europe, and nobody does a trailer, nobody does poster art. In the digital world, those are two key things. Just like to say, people do buy books by its cover. When you go to Netflix, if you have Netflix over here, or Hulu or iTunes, you're looking at poster art. You got to grab them on the poster, and secondly, you got to grab them in the trailer. That's what you're fighting against. When you have 10,000 titles, think about your own behavior when you go online to order something and what you see and what attracts you. I just see a lot of that missing because people, oh yeah, I saw my doc at the BBC, great. think digital, think other opportunities. These are a couple of key things. Think master file as opposed to just DVD. Start creating a digital master because that'll have its life and it makes it easier to, you'll have the best quality source moving forward. Sometimes we get DVDs, which we can use, but having HD in the new world of digital is preferred because it's better quality. For the United States, starting January 1st next year, everything in digital has to be closed caption. So if your doc is foreign language, it's fine because it's probably subtitled in English. If it's English, it has to be closed caption and it won't be on digital. And then think multiple language tracks or subtitles because now we launch multiple versions. So we'll send as many versions as we can get to Microsoft. So we cater to each market. So we launch a title that's just Spanish with no English subtitles in Latin America. And then we'd launch, if that's available, and then just split out the languages and launch in other territories. But maybe that's a way to start the discussion.
I'm just going to introduce Journeyman quickly.
Yeah.
So we're an international distributor that requires about 3 to 4 hours of content a week. And then we send it out to all of these digital platforms. Now, this is going to be funny because my MD was supposed to come here and present this, and it's a personal presentation about Journeyman's development through digital. So I'm going to be Mark Stuckey for for 5 minutes. Not quite. Edward Caffrey. I'm our head of acquisitions. The red one? All right. Oh. All right, yeah, cool. All right, well, I'll just start, giving a brief introduction while we sort out the technical issues. The main point that I guess we see as key for distributors, for rights holders, for everyone who has content in this new world is noise. It's about, all of these platforms do great things. All of them offer something slightly different. And Journeyman's approach is based around using all of them. There are people who love Vimeo, who love how that works. There's people who love how Distrify works. And they're each a different audience. It's almost like you're going to a different video store. And so you want to be out there in as broad a way as possible so that each of these audiences is going to be tapped into, whether it's iTunes, whether it's Netflix, whether it's Distrify, whether it's Vimeo or Dailymotion, or I Love Docs. You want your film available as widely as possible. And then what needs to follow from that is building of audience, building of marketing, creating that audience around it. And that can start from before you've made your film, when you're crowdsourcing. Creating mailing lists, getting people excited and involved in your project, all the way through to distribution, through Twitter, through Facebook, through getting reviews. It's become a very different world from where, you sell your film to a broadcaster and then they handle the marketing. They do the listings, they do the reviews, they handle all that. You've got to remember that when you put your film out into the digital world, you have to do that. That's now on your shoulders. And I think maybe we'll move to questions because you were talking earlier, Peter, about how Distrify can help people market their film and you can provide support. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So I showed some of the examples of our marketing partners in the presentation, but we're constantly evolving how that works because the way that people are consuming online changes rapidly. So recently we've been experimenting more and more with Facebook marketing, where you can quite easily identify niche groups of people who are interested in particular subject matter, which is very appropriate for a documentary. So we have an exclusive partnership with a company out of Tel Aviv called Butterfly Media, and they control 10,000 different Facebook pages with 300 million fans across their network. And those are all segmented based on topic. And so we're able to, say you made a film about set in Israel that's related to Jewish issues. They have a page called Jews News, which has over 1 million fans, and we can place that film directly within that page. And the advantage of that is that the editor of the page will contextualize the film, tell their readers why it's interesting, and then their readers can share it, like it, engage with it, and purchase it directly from that page. We've done this with others of their pages, like they have the largest women's rights page, which is great for documentaries about, say we did one about childbirth recently, which has worked quite well. They also have the largest LGBT page, and we're able to put films there. And we're finding that by doing that, we can tweak the post, and people are engaging with it based on they're already interested in it, appears in their news feed, and you're getting directly into people right there.
Great. I'll do my presentation quickly. It's mainly about the development of the web and VOD and how things have been moving. So you start here with DOS, which I don't think we can do much with video on that. And here's a nice picture of Mark back in his war reporter days with some snazzy glasses. He was going to say something about how he wasn't very interested in computers until web came along. Yeah, so this is BBC back in 1996. It's, really basic stuff, not very interactive. Here in 2000, there's still no videos, so it gives you an idea of how new this world is. And this is us blowing our own trumpet. This is Journeyman with video in 2000, although I don't think many people were watching our videos with an old DSL line. And then, obviously, Google Video started in the middle of the last decade with video, and that's when YouTube started and all kicked off. And here's our page in 2013. You can see actually from 2000, the format hasn't changed that much. The videos are quicker. Hopefully the logo's a little snazzier. But yeah, we're still presenting content in quite a similar way, but now a lot more people are watching. And as the kind of family sit down around a TV has changed and people are looking for more niche audiences, we built our documentary page where you can stream directly through the page. And then you can see this is our YouTube page. So we're kind of branching out into different mediums. And the importance, as with everything, is scale and building audiences. So, we've built up a subscriber list of 205,000 over the last 5 or 6 years. And once you get to that scale, it starts to be a model that works. So that's one of the really important things about online is you've got to reach that big audience. If you're talking about audiences in the 10s, 20s, 50s, you're never going to be able to make a sustainable model. So it's about scaling up and drawing those kind of people in. And so that's how we look at online now. It's about hitting all of these great platforms, taking advantage of all the tools that they can offer, and then following up with strong promotion. So whether it's from our VOD site, whether it's the Daily Motion site, rental site, our Vimeo site, which we just started a couple of weeks ago, to our YouTube VOD page. It's about using all of these resources and then marketing effectively. Right. Okay. Well, Greg, do you want to talk a little bit about revenue streams and how a filmmaker starting out with a film, he's coming to you or he's coming to these platforms. What's the first thing you think about when you want to say, okay, I need to make some money out of this? What am I going to do?
Okay, so outside of whether, if if you didn't get a broadcast deal, if it's feature, I also look at things if they're feature length, because if it's feature length, you can charge more. For cable VOD, usually people are not going to put a title that's less than an hour, at least in the United States. So I kind of look, is there a market for it? Is it feature length? Is there a built-in audience? For a filmmaker, you know, that you look at the festival circuit as a way of raising, is really, you know, it's like a cotillion. It's a marketing effort for the film, and hopefully you attract distributors or sales agents to the film who will then take it and go on to other platforms. From a digital perspective now, we're looking at titles, so I think will it work theatrically and again, to support the title in other format. And then in some cases, we'll look at it as like, it may be feature length, but it's a TV doc, and the place for it is now on digital as a place to monetize it that didn't exist before. So we'll do a day and date release. That's also important. You should consider so that you don't disrupt any other window, and it usually starts, theatrical, or it could be day and date theatrical and on VOD, and then there's 90-day period, at least in the US, a 90-day period before it can go to a model like Netflix or Hulu, where it's a subscription based.
And Mark, you guys are just you're pushing your UK content side now. Can you tell me a little about how you're looking to interact with producers on the content side, or are you just putting it out there as a platform and waiting for people to come to you?
No, we don't wait for people to come, and we will try to get people on board. But basically, it's quite a different model, because Dailymotion, the way we want to help content owners or content producers is to have tools to do whatever you want. So you can do no ads, you can do a revenue sharing deal with us with ads, you can do VOD if you want. And so basically you can do live stream, you can have a free preview of 2, 5, 10 minutes of your documentary, and then you ask people to pay. So you can test a lot of different things, and we don't really think that we will switch from an ad-funded model to a VOD model. It's by mixing everything that you will create something. So that's the approach.
And are there any trends that you or Jordan are finding, and how people are using these players? What they tend to do? What's successful?
Well, I mean, our platform is still very new, so we're as interested as I'm sure everyone else is about how people are going to use this. We're seeing a lot of variety, as you'd expect. Lots of people. Obviously, I think feature films is probably the biggest thing, and certainly documentaries have always been huge on Vimeo. So lots and lots of documentaries, but also people doing series and using it for instructional videos and all kinds of things. So it's really nice to see that lots of people think that it works for what they're doing. But yeah, I think the big thing everybody has to figure out is how these people get their film out there. It's like Vimeo, as well as being about video sharing, is also a social network and a massive community. So we have lots of people who've uploaded short films or their early work to Vimeo and have sort of grown their audience there somewhat, are now able to, if they upload their film, or their followers see it, if you like something or you buy something, your followers see that that's happening in their news feed, and that's great. But also, I think this is brilliant to see everybody, all these different platforms, because we sort of need to change culture a little bit and get people to come looking for films on the internet rather than just waiting for them to come to theatres or to television or in that kind of way. So, I think, it's exciting times.
And Peter, in terms of Distrify, because you guys have been doing it for 2.5 years, do you find that there's a different kind of content that people are going towards in terms of online? Do producers need to look at different ways of producing almost, or stuff that doesn't work so well for TV but works better online? Do you have any?
Yes, it's quite interesting, because what works online tends to be films that have an identifiable niche or community that's interested in the subject. And that means that we can have a film that is short duration documentary about a very, very niche subject, such as, we had a short which came to us, which is a very specific type of yoga, and about the Western people who travel to India to do that yoga. But that community is very passionate and they're very active online. So while the film was not broadcast quality, it was not, probably not even, I mean, maybe it had some festival life, but it wasn't going to be significant. I could tell that from watching it. But I could see immediately that the audience who are fans of that particular thing would jump on it. And they did. And so that was great. But then you might have other films which are harder to identify the niche. So maybe, I know there's a lot of people make documentaries about their relationship with their father, which is maybe a little more difficult to sell online because it's about this sort of personal dramatic story, which is, it's hard to identify that community in the same way that something that's about a particular subject is. Outside of documentary, there's a whole different range of dynamics, but within documentary, it's those subject-based films that can really take off online.
Okay, great. And in terms of audiences like that, I mean, obviously a hugely important part of it is how audiences find it, because they're not being curated to, they're not, there's no programmers anymore selecting what they find. So how do you generally find people find things? Is it through Facebook? Is it through YouTube? Is it just through navigating your own site?
For us, we do have, I think 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, we launched a sort of directory, the beginnings of a shop window for Vimeo On Demand. That's certainly fledgling and we'll be developing it further, but curating VOD obviously takes a lot more time than curating short form work for the normal site. But yeah, I think lots of people, I think the films that are working so far are definitely the people who have been thinking about this like before they just put the film up online. You can't finish the film, put it online and just expect everybody to come and find it. So people who have used social media generally, I don't think, so far we don't really differentiate between Facebook or Twitter or any of those kinds of platforms. But what they all have in common is that people have been thinking about this for a long time and figuring out how to promote their film, how to make people aware of it before it launches. Or people who have a devoted following on any platform. As you say, people who have particular niche groups. It's sort of classic long tail marketing. There's an audience out there for almost everything, but it's just figuring out how to find them.
Okay. Greg, just to go back again to maybe revenue streams, how do you find that pay VOD lines up against, because the digital world is obviously complex. You've got downloads, you've got subscription VOD, you've got people like Netflix. I mean, how are you finding it in terms of where it fits into that digital world?
Within my window, I'd say it's primarily incremental revenue for people. It's like a bonus, and it really depends on the subject matter. I think docs have over-indexed online because they've been, again, anything that's marginalized on broadcast has there's a place for it for people to find it now very easily online, and we found that that's over-indexed, versus broadcast. So, and then it's even, the real answer is no one knows. I mean, it's the film business. We're just talking. There's a film I picked up, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna be great. And I spent money, marketing it, and did all that stuff, and it's a bit of a bomb. And that's I'm not the first person in the film industry to go through that, but and what I found too is, I'll call the distributors I work with that have been in business longer, and I talk to Mark, and I'm like, I've noticed this, like 90% of my revenue is from 10% of the titles. They're like, welcome to the film industry. So, but then there's some nuances, there's some stuff that I've marketed, it doesn't find the audience, other stuff I've just put up there, but it's an interesting subject matter, and it's one film is grossed, more than 100 put together. One film on, 3 months on iTunes has outperformed, another 50 films across every platform for 6 months. There's that disparity. I've got other titles. I picked up there's a film we have from Journeyman, and it's, it didn't perform as well as we liked for a number of years, and all of a sudden there's a model change on Amazon. They went to subscription-based. And I think what I like about Docs, and we have over 350 titles, it's a window into what's going on a bit in the society in terms of what they're renting. And all of a sudden, in 3 months, you know, it outperformed everything else we had, and it stood out. So there was something going on in, you know, in the US, and this doc was relevant to that subject, and people sought it out. There's also another, when Amazon switched to subscription, we saw a huge jump in revenue. And then we'll see some things perform better ad-supported versus on VOD. In terms of numbers, I would say 95% of our revenues from VOD, 5% from EST. So that's why there's been a big hit. Some of my clients are, you know, been in the industry for a long time. You know, they came from VHS and then DVDs, and they'd even offer, you know, 10 to 20,000 MG for home video rights in the United States, and it's like overnight that dried up, and they're stuck with, you know, they're stuck with inventory, they're stuck with everything, but literally it dried up overnight, and the model is not there where everyone is buying, you know, $19 rental, $19 digital download versus a rental, which is you have access at any time to anything. So I know that kind of answer your question, or
Yeah, no.
you know, there's something. You know, we've got a series. There's a series, a TV series on paranormal. Paranormal is one of those subjects that does very well online. You know, it was made for Space Network in Canada. We launched it on Hulu, and you know, the filmmaker's elated because, you know, he's over the course of the year he's going to make low 5 figures, and he's just, you know, it's all incremental for him. He's moved on. He's focused on making his new thing. So for your library, it can be anything from, you know, you get a lunch check every quarter to, you know, maybe it'll pay your lease payment. But it's all over. For a new release title, it's much different. You know, and there is a different model between the self-publish, reach everyone model and the main platforms. I said why we're moving into theatrical is that we can raise the profile of a title to get on the homepage, you know, on Apple. And I know there's some people who change the name of their film just so it starts with an A to get on the, you know, main folder in cable VOD in the United States. But when you walk into a supermarket, you know, Kraft and Procter & Gamble, everyone's fighting to have their brand eye level, middle shelf. And on iTunes, the main platforms, still iTunes is like 70% of the VOD market. Everyone's fighting to get that new and noteworthy new releases in the homepage because that's most of the revenue. So the library is, you know, relegated to whatever. You have to scroll and scroll and scroll. It's a little different, but that is the real business where there can be real money, and a point where now we'll look at a film, and if we can take that on, we will pay an MG for not only digital rights but theatrical as well. Library content, we try to find context to bring people to that type of content.
Okay, great. Well, Mark, you said that, you know, it sounds like your VOD platform is growing really quickly. I mean, from 10% revenue to 30%, that's quite a big jump. Do you think that will continue to grow? And I mean, is what you're looking to do to create an alternative to, like Greg says, you've got a situation where iTunes still has 70% of the market. Are you looking to compete with that or offer something different?
I think we will offer something different. We don't compete with iTunes at all. Plus, we have another experience of internet. So Dailymotion is not, and I guess it's the same for Vimeo, it's not like a portal. Of course, we will develop a dedicated player page for VOD. We will develop a specific search result page, but our job is more about social, creating embeds on Facebook, on Twitter, getting traffic from Google and things like that, and that's we really want to develop VOD with that instead of just like creating a new VOD portal. Nobody cares about that. You already have some really great VOD portal, and we need to offer something different.
And going forward, I mean, just outline the advantages that you feel giving an alternative to that. I mean, rather than offering a portal, you know, offering this kind of different setup where you can embed players and social networking becomes easier. What are the advantages of that to a filmmaker in terms of getting their film out there? in your opinion, that's something that could go to all three of you?
Well, from our side, I mean, this has been something that we've been I've been at Vimeo for 2 years, and they were already talking about this when I joined. But we're all about. I mean, Vimeo's kind of mission statement is to empower and inspire filmmakers to make the best work they possibly can, and that's for whatever kind of work you make. So we have a lot of people, obviously, who are professionals who use the site, but also lots of people who just want to, make their personal videos and make them as well as they can. So, people start their careers on Vimeo, and they, maybe they make something that gets staff picked, and off the back of that, they get signed to a production company, and they start making music videos or commercials on a bigger scale, and then they're working towards their feature film. We wanted to just help them do the whole thing without having to leave the site. So our platform isn't, again, we're not trying to rival iTunes or anything. It's just about giving the next tool to the filmmakers who will need it, and it's up to them to use it however they want. I don't really know if that's answering your question, but that's the point of it for us. Is just we're all about helping people do this and make films, and then finding the audience is the next step.
Peter, do you have anything to add, or?
I'm a filmmaker myself. I've been coming to Sheffield for it's my 7th year in Sheffield, and making films, presenting films, pitching films, and what we've always thought is we need to make the best tools for ourselves and for the other people in the industry, and that's why we have quite a range of options, from theatrical marketing to VOD to DVD sales to audience capture, the whole spectrum. So what we're trying to do is provide the best and the most effective tools at any given time for filmmakers of any scale, from someone who's made the first film up to a film studio.
Yesterday you had Spielberg and Lucas coming out and predicting the end of studios and that everything's going to go online. And I mean, in your guys' opinion, do you think that we're going to end up in a situation where it's almost back to having Netflix and iTunes and a few big players dominating the online scale, or do you think your models can kind of create this wider, more diverse, and kind of maintain that the options that the internet gives us at the moment, and kind of build more of a space for alternate voices than is kind of coming through the mainstream now?
I think that's definitely true, and I think that's what's so exciting about all of this. And you can, if you're into a particular strand of yoga, or if you're we've got a film about Burning Man up on the site, and I know there's a huge amount of people who are into Burning Man, but that's never going to be, or it's very unlikely that a film like that will be on general release, or certainly in the all of the big multiplexes all around the country. But so it's great to see that people can make films about whatever they're into and get them out to an audience. But I think the thing we have to figure out is how people are going to raise enough money to make the films. Because it's all very well being able to sell them, but the first thing is finding the money to make your films. So it's very exciting to see where this is going to go, but that's something that we have to figure out.
What do you reckon, Greg? Dealing with both as you do?
It's, look at your own behavior when you it's Friday, Saturday night. What do? You probably go to the new release folder. Most people look at what's new. So I think that the returns will be skewed to new versus the library. And you can introduce, when supply goes up in any market, returns will be spread over a greater number. So the value of, maybe only 5 people here can get a BBC doc made, but the value is those 5 people will have enough money to make their film. So putting everything available, is going to dilute the pool, so there won't be that, the same amount of return. It's an economic dilemma or quandary or challenge. But so when you do make it through all those gates and filters, and that bar will continue to change to iTunes, at least those people can say, well, we have the best chance of making the most money in that new model. And these new players, like YouTube's spending $200 million on this year on partnering to create original content. I've seen some stuff come out of Canada where they've given it to TV producers or networks to start to curate. There is a value of curation. The other challenge, and I'm sure the DVD and VHS industry went through this, as soon as revenue becomes predictable and we know if we get this film and if it does, if it's had this profile either theatrically or once, every new release, I know I'm going to make $100,000 or $200,000 and it becomes predictable, 9 out of 10 times, then there'll be money, back to come in and say, okay, here's MGs and that will flow. But unfortunately, we're really in it's going to be a state of flux. It took 10 years for the music industry to recover the music that they, the revenues they lost, when Napster burst on the scene and changed. So the challenge of everything available at any point, even though, I also agree, put your content in different places for sale, get it out there so it's available. The other challenge is and that's maybe another panel, will content become commoditized the same way music has? It's a different experience, but, and it is the 80-20 rule, the long tail on Amazon, and being on Amazon versus not. At least you're there to make money should somebody find that. But it is a challenge for indies.
Yeah. And I guess, what I like about, the opportunities that your platforms offer is, what I would hope would develop and what I'd say you guys are trying to drive is that filmmakers can create a community with the people who love their films and can interact directly in that kind of much closer way. Do you already see that happening? That there's more kind of community interaction through your sites?
Definitely. Our most successful films are the ones where the filmmaker has been working to understand their audience from the time they started making the film. They've built up a mailing list of people that are interested, and then when they launch it from their website, then their fans immediately purchase it, and then they start posting it to their blogs, and then there's a dialogue that starts taking place all around the web. And then what's really interesting about that is that because communities work in different ways. So some communities work different on different platforms, but it allows for a new community, maybe who hasn't been interested in the film before, to discover it, and then it becomes new again for that community. So like Greg's saying, people want to see what's new, but what's new for you may be different what's new for me. And that kind of rediscovery, we see that happening within our sales patterns, where you would normally see that spike and then the trail off. We can see further spikes that occur in the same way that happened with the Journeyman title that Greg was referring to. And that's when a new group identifies it as something related to their interests, and then they interact and share.
Were you going to say something, Jordan? Or?
No, absolutely. We're all about community, and that's, on Vimeo and off Vimeo, I think that's an essential thing. But a lot of people use Vimeo in the way that someone will send them a link and they'll watch it and then they'll sort of close down and do something else. But a huge part of what we do, and probably the thing that has got us where we are, is the community side of it. Lots of people treat it just as another social network and are very active. And people always say to me, and this isn't just about VOD, this is using Vimeo generally, like, how do I get people to see my films? It's like, well, don't just treat it like a sea of eyeballs waiting to watch your work. Like, you've got to also engage with them and, like people's videos and comment under things. And if someone asks you a question under your video, respond and get the conversation going. It's very like Twitter. You don't just, sign up and start tweeting and expect lots of people to follow you. You've got to sort of do a bit of work yourself. And I think that's different. That's the big difference now from how it used to be. It's like filmmakers do have to be a lot more proactive and think about these things. But it can really pay off if you do.
If you look about the new YouTube application, for example, they don't show you the amount of views anymore. They don't care about the video views. They show you the amount of followers you have. And it's really important because all their strategy now is focused on followers, creating community, developing tools to be able to send alert to your followers and things like that. So yes, community is the most important. But it's not like it's something really easy, really complicated to create. Of course, it takes time, but having good preview, having good trailers, speaking with people, sending them alert, it's step by step. In 1, 2, or 3 years, you can easily create a great community around your documentary, around your web series, around.
I think the thing is also like this, yes, this is a sort of, we are in flux and this is the very early days of all of this, but it's undeniably where things are going, and investment in this kind of, spending time thinking about this kind of stuff certainly isn't ever going to hurt you. So people who are thinking about it, who are on the case and dealing with this kind of stuff now, we're not going to be in flux forever. So I'm really excited to see where things are going to go. And it might take a while, but I bet it's not going to take as long as some people might think. So yeah, I think it's really exciting times.
I think we should learn from the most effective people at online distribution of films, who are still the pirates, because we're in flux, but they've already worked it out a long time ago. And so, I mean, that was the origin of Distrify for me, was when I would put my film online and I found that people were sharing my trailer with a YouTube embed on a blog and then linking to Rapid Share, the Pirate Bay. And that community was already engaged with my film. They were already talking about it, but I wasn't participating enough and I wasn't giving them the opportunity to purchase it easily enough. And so we need to catch up to what the pirates worked out a long time ago. They've got these great communities on the Pirate Bay and these sorts of things. Let's just kind of bring them into our legal world, and then we'll see things grow.
And do you think that's already starting to happen?
Yes. I mean, we identify people who, maybe through ignorance or through lack of understanding, might they buy a film and then they try and put it onto YouTube, and we get in touch and say, I know you like this film, but the correct way to share it is this link here. And they say, oh, sorry, I didn't, I made a mistake. I just really loved it. And then we turn a pirate into an affiliate. So.
And one bugbear I always find with the filmmakers we deal with is, there's always these cases of films that do great online, and then so it's like what Greg was talking about earlier. Certain titles just run, and 10% pays for 90%. I mean, do you see revenue going up across all titles, or is it still very much you get these kind of spikes where a handful of titles will represent the majority of the share of purchases?
We always have a few films every month that are doing 5 figures, and that appears to be pushing our revenue overall. But then I always compare the diversity of our catalog over time. And what's reassuring always is that we see that consistently we have more different films selling every month, and more different rights holders selling every month. So when you think, all right, that film just did 30 grand this month, and that's why the revenue's up, we then look into it deeper and we see that everything is benefiting from that and everything is growing. So yeah, the diversity is definitely showing growth, and we can see that the model is becoming more and more accepted by people across the board. There's a question out there.
Yeah.
I'm curious, a lot of us are making films with broadcasters like HBO or PBS, and they're now demanding all of our digital rights, free VOD, free streaming.
Thank you. For extended periods of time, and that, I'm assuming, will kill our potential for monetizing anything or being picked up by any of you. Can you talk about how you think we should limit, or what experiences you've had in dealing with these broadcasters?
Well, I think, if I can jump in, first of all, I love BBC iPlayer, 4 on Demand, these sorts of services. It's a great way to watch what was on TV yesterday, but they're death to your film, because any sort of free streaming rights that a broadcaster insists, you've got to fight back, because as soon as that program ends up on one of these free stream platforms, someone will rip it and it will end up pirated immediately. So you're then killing a huge potential for legal paid streaming. So increasingly we're finding that people are able to negotiate and say, look, we're not going to do the online rights, and then they can put it online at the same time as it goes out and broadcast, and then those people who would normally think, oh, I missed that program, I'm going to search for it, they end up on the film's website where they've got a Distrify player or a Dailymotion or Vimeo, and they're able to purchase it and pay for it, and then you actually get revenue. So increasingly, say, no, sorry, that's not going to work for the film. We'd rather not have you open the door to the pirates.
Can I comment on that? You know, it's at the end of the day, it's a business discussion. I think for your film, if you can carve out the United States, if it's HBO or POV, that's fair. But at the end of the day, if you're happy with the check they're giving you, then take the money, and you'll get your film back, and you'll get your film back in 3 years. But I used to work for a network in Canada, and the cable people who rely on the $50 to $80 that gets split amongst them. They're watching Netflix totally disrupt the market for $8, and they're fighting very aggressively to preserve the value and fight cord cutting. HBO used to be, I think, the largest subscription in the world. Now I think Netflix has surpassed them. So it's not that they're being egregious, and they're just trying to protect the value of the subscription. When they offer it, and they also realize that people are consuming things on multiple platforms. So when they take it and they put it on, it's not like, I don't know, maybe HBO will take it and sell it on iTunes and you can ask for a revenue share. But if they're really saying, look, as part of people's subscription to HBO Go, they can watch it on their phone, their tablet, their computer, whatever, and all they're asking for is that you can make it available. So, I mean, we really shouldn't care if they see it on TV or not. The model has changed. People are watching stuff on demand, and with PVR. So that ask is fair. Whether you can ask to hold back electronic sell-through rights or EST, because traditionally they wouldn't touch home video, and then ask for other territories, and then put a limit on it. So if they've had it for 3 years, then you get it back, and yes, it's more of a library play or it's a new release in another market.
Yeah, this one here.
Really, really interesting, and as you say, state of flux, and no one really knows what's going on here. But there are elements. A lot of it is new, but there are elements of what you're talking about that starting to look a bit like the old model as well, in that you have essentially wholesalers and then various retail outlets, and that, of course, everyone's got to make a living, so everyone's got to take their little share as you go along. Is it clear yet how that is actually going to work? I mean, given that the amount you can charge for online stuff is going to be less per unit, if I'm giving it to one of you guys who is then distributing it to one of the others who, I mean, potentially from what you described, it's a bit confusing, but it could go through as many as 3 of you, as I understand. You've all got to make a living. What consequences does that have for my revenue as a filmmaker?
Well, obviously, every situation is totally unique. I mean, you can obviously go directly through any of these guys. You just upload your film. If you bring the film to us, I mean, we'll also put it on these platforms, and we will take a revenue share. But what we'll offer is big marketing support. So we'll get it reviewed. We'll get blogs talking about it. We'll tweet about it, and we'll also offer a channel where we've got 205,000 subscribers on YouTube. Those trailers all link to a paid platform, and so you're basically, what you're paying for with us is that audience and that expertise that we can then use to drive people to films on Vimeo or Dailymotion.
But just to be clear, none of you is asking, as traditional distributors were, for exclusivity. Is that right? So, as a filmmaker, I just put it with all of you and see what kind of job you do.
Well, one of the things that we've found that's worked really well, and I think that you're asking the right question, what is the value of all the different middlemen in the future? I think maybe there's too many. I think you're right about that. But I think that increasingly it's going to be about identifying the right partner who's actually going to put the effort in for your film. And what's worked really well for us, and this is not so much in the documentary space at the moment, but in some of our other distributors, where a filmmaker could come to us direct and put the film on and start promoting it from their website, but instead they go to a distributor who has a very strong marketing team, they have a strong existing audience for their content, and then because we have this shared rewards deal going on, then the distributor uploads it to Distrify, and they're taking their percentage, but they offer the shared reward affiliate percentage to the director of the film, who's then going to do their own marketing. And so they're able to earn a percentage off the top for every sale they refer through their their audience, and they still get their percentage on the back end from the distributor. And then you're getting the combined efforts of both the direct-to-fan model with the filmmakers pushing the film, plus the heavy weight of the distributor, like your journeyman, and you can, that actually seems to be what's working the best for us at the moment, is when you bring those things together, but you need to make sure that the distributors you're choosing are effectively great marketing companies, because that's what they've got to be in the future. When you're not shifting units to HMV anymore, then it's all about marketing and it's not about logistics.
Well, we'll say it's a fair comment because, you know, I do compare it to the DVD market because there's multiple layers in there and it's just a time thing. So like in Canada, even major, you know, studios or, you know, some of the largest companies would all go through one company just because of the logistics, and that one company or two companies out of the entire country would have a vendor at HMV, at Walmart to ship DVDs to. The other thing is, expecting some companies do great at broadcast. They have those networks, but to ask them to say, okay, we want you everywhere. Like it's taken me 5 years. It took me 2 years to do a deal with Microsoft. I mean, I drove down to LA. I called the guy every other week for 2 years until we signed a deal. It's a ton, and then after that, it always changes. There's emerging players. So asking what would be your either your theatrical or your TV agent to be an expert in all these other things, while yes, you'd like a greater revenue share, it's not necessarily a fair ask unless you're going to go to a vertically, unless you can sell your film to Warner Brothers or a company like E1 that's that big, and maybe some of you will. It's that tier of film, but it is kind of a reality, and this industry is shaking out as well.
But it's similar to the standard other distributors in that there's a trade-off as small independent filmmakers between their volume, the size of muscle power they have, but that is then their energy is also subdivided by that. Yeah. So right. They're like to be put less effort into your particular film,
right.
If you're basically dealing in increments of one or a few films at a time.
But the wholesale model, is like you're right, that's what it's become. And the other thing on the other side, people are like, well, I'm just going to do a deal direct. Is like these people, I worked in the US for a while, and a lot of times the bottleneck to launching things digitally was never a technical challenge. It was a legal challenge. Like they'll have a few people in legal affairs, and it's like we can't do that many deals. And so
just in the back there.
Should I go? I just wanted to ask you guys, just as sort of the panel, for if a viewer pays £5, how much actually ends up in the filmmaker's bank account of those £5?
Well, I can do the maths, but you get 90% of the revenue. After transaction fees on Vimeo means credit card or PayPal. So, you get, I want to do the maths, but I'm going to do it terribly. But yeah, you get 90% from Vimeo.
Of the gross?
Yes.
So you swallow the VAT, basically?
Well, actually, we deal with American. I don't know how that reflects with VAT and everything, but we do everything in dollars still. So you go through America, we take off the transaction fees, and then you get 90%. And we try and keep it simple because actually we're not looking to make lots of money out of each sale and each film, but it's an extension of the Vimeo Pro subscription. So you have to have Vimeo Pro to use Vimeo On Demand, and actually we're a subscription-based business, so that's what we're interested in.
So you also have a charge up front?
Well, you become a Pro member, yeah.
How much is that?
I think it's just under $200 a year.
70%.
Of the gross?
Of the gross. The real gross.
So you swallow that?
It's like iTunes or...
Well, then it'd be the net. Probably the net.
I mean, for
you pay
10 euros, you will earn 7 euros as a content owner.
Well, we follow the tax laws in this country, so we do pay VAT. Yeah, you have to pay 20% to the HMRC. For any sales in Europe, but if you're selling outside of Europe, then there's no VAT applicable. And then we pay a variable fee of the net, depending on the price point that you're selling for and which plan you're on. and that can be anywhere from 70% to 90%, depending on what you're selling. And then you also have the option to offer a larger portion of your share to your affiliates. We always contribute the first 5% to that, and then the other remainder comes out of your share. And we don't have any upfront fees on our first film plan. So you can get up and running for free and start earning 70% of every rental today.
We take 35% of digital revenue, but like I said, what we provide for that is a promotional service, is access, and we picked up a lot of films that were 4 or 5 years old, already available on digital, and have kind of turned those earnings around over that time. So we feel it's justified.
If we were dealing direct, you would probably on a £5, if it's a library title, you would be netting out around 30%. If we were getting your titles through one of our clients, it's a distributor or a sales agent, you may end up with between 20 and 25% of retail. If it's a new release, generally it's scaled. If it's a day and date release, most of the retail partners take 50%. It's a standard deal, whatever, YouTube or iTunes. Every major player, that's kind of the industry norm. If it's a day and date release, usually it's 70% for like the first month or a couple months, and then after that, maybe 60% comes back. So that's like the retail fee. I always, you could also look and there's an independent distributor work with in Canada, and for him, when he gets a DVD in the store at HMV, when there was still HMV and people bought, he was seeing 17% of retail. So I always look at retail. So you would be getting, direct deal, 30% of retail for a library title.
This guy in the back.
Yeah.
Try that mic. Thank you. 2 questions. One is, how do either of your services help with the filmmaker dedicated to piracy, which I know has come up a couple of times? And the second question, which is kind of slightly quite unrelated, is Peter, you mentioned a little bit about Jews News, for example. To what extent have either of you noticed trends around culturally specific work, and to what extent things that wouldn't probably be interested in mainstream channels of interest, particularly cultural groups as communities of interest? So the first one about piracy, how can we help with that? The second one, any trends around culturally specific communities that are trending or something like that?
Sure. Can I answer the second question first? Well, I can answer the first question as well. We have a content ID partnership with YouTube, so if you grant us control of your AVOD rights, we can have your content removed immediately if someone uploads it, whether they found it through us or through any other source, such as a DVD rip. And we send takedown notices when we're aware of them, like we send them to Vimeo sometimes. And Daily Motion too, but you guys have very fast response time, so that's great. But on the second question, we have some particular successes within different cultural groups. So the Southern Indian language Kannada, the cinema that's made there, we've been very successful in selling that to the diaspora. That's the language spoken in Bangalore and in the sort of tech centers of India. So there's a very large number of Kannada-speaking Indians around the world who don't have access to their latest releases, but we can bring them very soon after they're in the cinema in India, and that works very well. Similarly, in Nigeria, we've been very successful with the Nigerian filmmakers who want to sell to Nigerians and other Africans who are interested in Nigerian films who are spread around the world. And that's been working really great. And the very interesting thing about the Nigerians is that they're incredibly effective at Twitter. So we have more sales through Twitter for Nigerian films than any other particular group. And there's a number of other cultural groups like that, but those are the two that are most interesting to us at the moment.
What are your conversion rates? So what percentage of the content that you have on your platforms is sold? Do you have those numbers?
Conversion rates?
Yes.
What percentage of content?
What percentage of the content on your platforms is sold? So how much, so what percentage are you actually selling? Do you have those, do you have that sort of?
So we look at conversion in terms of how many people actually come to your player, which is probably what you guys will look at as well, because if you upload a film and don't tell anyone it's there, it's not really relevant in terms of conversion. But if you look across the board, on average, for every time someone watches a trailer, about 5 to 6% of those people will end up making a purchase. So if you think about the last video you uploaded to YouTube and how many views you had, and you can think about 5% of those people going on to pay for it.
Yeah, because all your models are slightly different. So, I mean, the VOD on Vimeo would be different because you've actually got a marketplace there. So,
yeah, I mean, our sort of shop window is only just open, so I can't tell you, I don't actually have any numbers yet, but definitely let's swap business cards and I'll send you what I can afterwards. But yeah, at the moment, our model, while our front page is there and we're promoting some partner films and people that we're really keen to get behind, it's mostly on the creator and the filmmaker to do the work to promote them films themselves. We don't really have, it's going to be a little while before our shop window is fully up and running.
And the rest of you?
It also depends on the content. I mean, we do live stream football games, for example, where the conversion is around 10%, and for movies it's more around 5 or 6%. So it also depends on the content.
Yeah, and also where people find it. So, for example, The Guardian, we get much higher conversion rate. The quality of the audience who ends up in the Guardian film section is much more likely to go on and make a purchase than someone who sees a trailer posted on Facebook.
Yeah, because as I understand, Distrify is more of a distribution platform, but then you're talking about your Butterfly partnership, which makes it sound like you're dabbling in the marketing side as well, which is why, that would be an interesting place to understand conversion rates, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the conversion rates depend on the platform. Facebook, we probably have a higher conversion rate than a lot of people, but it's still lower than other places because of the type of behavior that people have when they're on that platform.
On that question, it's an interesting one, I think for Dailymotion, do you allow video charges to be made in the video? So during like half an hour, you can watch half an hour free, and a thing comes up and you can pay them within the player and watch the rest of it. Do you find that works better on conversion?
That was something really important for us because at the beginning, and we are still a free website, meaning that everybody can watch everything for free, except that they have to watch advertising before. But it was something really important in our strategy, in our VOD strategy. We didn't want to develop a tool first outside the player, and then it's really important for us to have a free extract. So as a content owner, you can decide if it's 1, 2, or 5 minutes. But for example, when we live stream football games or NBA games, it's really important to have like 3 or 4 minutes of free content, and then you ask the user to pay, because we have more experience about free content, and that's the way we want to develop the tool. So it's the same for movies or documentaries. Yes.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, so it seems to me that some of the VOD platforms have quite specific audiences and others have very general ones. I mean, I know if I put something on Vimeo, it's likely to be seen by quite a discerning audience who are proactively looking for original content. If I put something on YouTube, it's going to be seen by people who want to see kittens. And, you know, I mean, in terms of, obviously, you've talked about building communities and the fact that, you know, people are looking at how many views does something have or how many followers do people have. So the question really is, by putting things onto multiple platforms, is one diluting their audience or is one broadening their audience?
I mean, what makes your marketing simpler if you're pointing to one page, but it depends whether you care about. It depends whether you care about having a page where you've got like, you know, a focused sort of play count or hit count. If you want to condense it so that you can then say we've got X 100,000 or X million followers on whatever, then maybe you're more interested. But I don't know. I think it's a personal decision for each person. But it certainly makes, like, we don't ask for exclusivity. We understand that maybe you do want to spread your bets and be everywhere and help people find your films. That's totally fine by us. It's up to you and maybe how you want to use those numbers or any numbers that come out of it to promote yourself and talk about your own business. But I think, I don't know how the rest of you feel. It's
Our experience has been that it always helps to be on as many platforms as possible. And we've had some quite surprising situations where, for instance, one of our films, Cocaine on Wrath, that was about the world drugs trade, did particularly well on YouTube rentals for, you know, it's difficult to justify, but for some reason that platform, it was incredibly popular, and then on other platforms where we would have expected it to have done better, it didn't do quite so well. So our experience is usually, you know, it's still a very unknown world. It's better to be loud, better to be seen everywhere. And you know, everyone, I mean, as for yourself, everyone has a different way of interacting with the web, different pages they're used to going for, different ways they've discovered things. And you've got to try and tap in so that there's more of a chance of them stumbling across your film, you know, and the more times they might see it here or might see it there, the better.
I think also that's to go back to the question about piracy. It's like one of the best things you can do to fight piracy is make your film easy to find. So, you know, wherever people do have different tastes in different places that they like to go to look for things on a Friday night, and, you know, get your film out there, make it easy for people to get it legally.
I find I wouldn't, it is a good question, and I go through it with, you know, just for my library. I wouldn't dilute it based on business model, so I'm very particular about what ad-supported deals I do, and I also look at what even subscription. There's a couple companies that one I pulled away from because I didn't think they charged enough in the market for those, and I saw bupkis at the end of it between VAT and Europe, which is crazy because they charge gross. I mean, like you know, Denmark made more money than we would on a film. And so, you know, it's like I pulled away from that. I look at other outlets. So look at model. I think, so, and then some outlets, and there's one in the US, when I saw what kind of content they had, you know, it's a little on the schlockier side, then they start go down the TNA route to attract people. I wouldn't want any, you know, discerning, you know, challenging documentary. I wouldn't, you know, I'm particular about where I would put that. I think in the future, it's an interesting question what's going to happen in the future, to the extent that the new broadcasters are the likes of Netflix, and if they put up the money, they will ask for exclusivity. And that, because if everything that's ever made, or, you know, or is being made, is available in 10 different places, it's an argument: is it an exclusive at HMV, or is it exclusive to Walmart, or will they pay? And so, because otherwise, Microsoft, Xbox, the other option is they have to compete on price. So I think, but that game will play out more at the studio level. You know, if somebody it's just like, you know, Burger King fights McDonald's for exclusive rights for the Star Wars characters. It'll be interesting to see what plays out at that level for exclusivity, because you're right. Then otherwise, the only tool they have to compete is price, which no one, you know, they don't want to compete on price. Yes, sir?
Hi, I just wondered if you'd noticed a significant difference in the performance of a film if it had been crowdsourced. A lot of us are often told if you crowdsource well, that you can build that audience early and then bring it into something like VOD. Is that true?
Crowdsourcing or crowdfunding?
Crowdfunding.
Yes, it's really important. I mean, for all the movies or documentaries we are producing, so as a company, we help directors to produce movies or documentaries, and we always ask them to create a crowdfunding, to go on a crowdfunding platform, because it's really important to engage your community and to engage your followers. So, yes.
I think if someone's good at crowdfunding,
crowdsourcing or sort of net savvy enough to make that work,
Yeah.
then the chances are they're going to be pretty good at VOD as well. So
It's not necessarily about crowdfunding, but it's about having those tools
Yeah.
to bring to marketing and having that audience. I mean, it's great to build up an audience as your film is developing. I mean, that's because then you have a bunch of people who are there already waiting for it to be released.
You know, if you want a good case, you know, say case study, or look into the people that made Indie Game. But I would say just because you do A, B, and C does not always guarantee, you know, that you'll get E, F, and D, because that in that film, and they did a little on their own, independent distribution, and they partnered for other people, like for iTunes, but they, but you know, their film was on gamers, and so it's a very active community that they fostered all along the development of the film. So that was spectacular. If you're doing a film on, you know, oceans rising and an island getting wiped out, maybe no one cares as much. You know, it really, do you have a big audience when you're starting out with? And before you know, you do the social media and you say connect. Maybe your film is just a really entertaining, like, you know, Her Majesty's Voice. We're both working with this film. I don't know that I'd sell the, you know, maybe people who are ventriloquists will like it, but it's a funny film that I think everyone in the audience would really enjoy. It didn't really need a community, it was just a great fun doc. Others, like Indie Game, are very focused on that, but it's a good case study to see how well, I mean, they knocked it out of the park. From, you know, they're on to like 7-figure revenue. A lot was doing it on their own, following the communities, doing something called Tug. I don't know if you guys have heard of that in the US. Have you guys heard Hands, Tug? I mean, it's basically another community thing. It's a smart idea to get your, if you want to show, it's fine to do a release in LA and New York, but if you want your film showing in Des Moines, and you do have a film that has a community, that's the thing. If you don't have a community, you know, you forget about the other stuff. You can, but if it has a community and they want to see it, you can get a sponsor in local towns, and when there's enough people that have signed up, say, yeah, I'll go see the movie and bought the tickets, then they'll show your movie in Des Moines, and you get, you know, Tug gets a fee, you get a fee, and the theater gets a fee. So there's those different things you can use.
I'll give a tip of advice that we have on crowdfunding campaigns, and it's maybe slightly controversial because it goes against what most people do. But the number one rule in retail is the easiest person to sell to is someone who's bought from you before. So if you give everything away in the perks on your crowdfunding campaign, you don't have anything left to sell your crowdfunders, who are the most likely people to buy from you the second time. So try and be more creative with perks. Don't give everybody a free stream, don't give everybody a free download, don't give everybody a free DVD. Try and come up with something that's a little more kind of related to the film, or something that's a nicer gift that's somehow not the film that you want to sell them later. Because those are the first people who will line up and fork over another $20 to buy it when it's finished.
Any more questions? I think we're coming to the end. Yeah.
And in terms of length for a single documentary, is there a length that works better, maybe for web distribution?
Well, like Greg said, feature length tends to work.
I like feature length because you can charge more for it. If it's HD, it's going to go for $4.99 or $5.99 on iTunes in the US. If it's under 50 minutes, you know, it's tougher. You know, then you're kind of, Apple set the benchmark, so you're like, and now it's all of a sudden $2.99 or maybe $3.99. So I like, but you know, tell the best story you can. I mean, again, the number one doc we have on iTunes is a 45-minute piece. It was done for a broadcaster. It was just the subject matter. We just can't charge as much. So, I mean, the real answer is it should be as long as you need to tell a great and compelling story. But I like, if there's two versions, I always take the feature because we can charge more.
We've had a lot of people paying $10 for a 36-minute rental. I don't think that duration matters to people that much, as long as it's what they want to watch and the price isn't crazy. So
we will release a broadcast cut if we think it's better than the feature cut for digital. And I think, I mean, you know, if you don't need to worry about broadcasters telling you how long, you know, they want you to make your film, then that's added freedom, isn't it, to go and make it to the time that suits your story.
Less than 10 minutes becomes hard to sell.
You know, I have a lot of segments that are that were done for TV. It's a a TV half hour, so they're 22 minutes to 25 minutes. They still sell. People still rent them. It's like $1.99 to own or 99 cents to rent. It's just so it still sells, but it's more the content driven.
All right, I think we need to wrap up, right? Thanks very much,
Okay.
everyone. Thanks for coming. Thanks, guys.